Laura, welcome to your first Track Champions League as a competitor, but your second Track Champions League, of course, because you're crossing over from my side to your side. How are you feeling?
I am, yeah. I mean, I'm a bit nervous, I've got to be honest. I mean, I was nervous last year. I don't know which one I'm more nervous for, to be totally honest. But no, I'm excited. I'm like nervous excited. Obviously, we had the World Championships and I came off a break. And I've only been training for like 7 days. And I don't know whether I should be admitting that or not. But I'm sure by the last one in London, I'll be absolutely fine.
When you were watching it last year, was there a bit of relief that you weren't taking part? Or did you think, I'd love to be on that track and having a go?
I think, you know, like, so when I signed up, obviously to be with you guys, I was really excited about it. I just thought, oh, this is a different opportunity and it takes me away from the bike racing and I'll feel more relaxed and I'll enjoy it more. But actually, you know what, when I was standing up there with Rob, the whole time I was like, I want to do this. Like, why am I not signing myself up for this? And so when, because I didn't qualify through the World Championships, I got asked to come. I think, did you get it through Olympic Champion? I mean, you think I should know by now, wouldn't you? But did you get it through being Olympics? But whatever. They asked me to come and I was like, absolutely yes. Like, I'm going to race it this year.
Yeah, I'm just thinking though, the fact that you were hungry while watching it last year is a good thing, really, because you have achieved everything there is to achieve and more, and yet you still want to be racing.
I know, I just love it though. Like, I'm not for this like fairy tale ending. Like, loads of people said to me after the commies, oh, did you not debate retiring? And I'm like, I don't know the end game until I start dropping off a cliff. And I'm not for this go out with a bang. Like, I'll fall off that cliff. Like, I do not mind. Because then I know I'm not going to have any regrets. I know that I'm absolutely done and I wouldn't have made it back into another team. Like, if I quit yesterday, today, whatever, I would never know. Like, I'd always have that what if. And so I don't want that. Like, I'm not for this. Oh, yay, she won another Olympics. No, just whenever.
So you're going to push it to the limit and beyond?
You'll see me go crap before before I bail out.
We'll know the end is coming.
Yeah. If I finish at 20.
Laura, we've talked about this.
Yeah, we think this is job done, mate. Yeah, you need to leave.
So I want to ask you about last year when we were here together. And obviously none of us had any idea of the heartbreak that you were going through. And I've spoken to you about this and my heart has broken for you and for Jason. How did you go through that? How did you get through that?
Because being an athlete sort of dragged me through it, I guess. I'm just glad that I had something else to fall upon, because I don't know how else I would have stopped my brain from overthinking the stuff that it was thinking at the time. It was just so tricky because obviously, well, it is pretty much a year ago, isn't it? It was a year ago last week when it happened, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I do not like letting people down, and for me, it's always been about turning up and you give your best on that day. That's what you do as an athlete. And it didn't matter that I wasn't being a bike rider on that day. I'd committed to everyone to be at this bike race and to be commentating, and I just didn't really think twice about it. I just carried on being Laura. Like, and that sort of, it has its disadvantages as much as being me has its advantages lots of the time, you know. Just saying that you're okay the whole time has its disadvantages, because I had to put on this face that wasn't me and just pretend everything was okay when it just wasn't. But just the support of Jace. I think whenever a female goes through a miscarriage, it's so heartbreaking for us, and everyone asks us, are we okay, that the man just gets completely forgotten about. And I feel like Jace actually, in a way, suffered worse, because no one was ever asking him if he was okay. Like, everyone was checking in on me, like family, friends, obviously once I told them, were checking in on me, whereas Jason just sort of got left. And I think it's taken him a lot longer to process than it did me. I mean, the ectopic for me, so when we had the miscarriage, like, you have all these ideas in your head, don't you? Like, I thought, oh, Albie's gonna have a sibling, and you're already painting this picture of this like new family that you're creating. And so that got taken away, and that was the heartbreak for me. Like, the ectopic was just something entirely like scary. It was just the scariest time of my life. And there was just so many like little pieces towards it that, like, I went to the GP and I did a pregnancy test in the GP. Like, I didn't know I was pregnant at the time, and all I knew was I was bleeding. And I went in, and he says, "Oh, you're pregnant. Come back in a week." Well, if I'd listened to that, and if it was only for the fact that I was an athlete, and I kept saying to Jason, something is so severely wrong with me. And it was the evening before I took myself to A&E, and I said to Jace, if you don't go out and get me some medication, something, I'm ringing an ambulance, because my temperature was through the roof. The only thing that was taking any of the pain away was lying in a boiling hot bath, because I needed the pain. Like, the pain in my body was just unreal. And if I'd waited a week, God only knows what would have happened, because ultimately I was really very sick. And then when I walked into A&E, within 2 hours, they'd taken it out and it had been removed. And it was just, for me, just like panic stations. Like, I'd never been put under before. Because of COVID, I was in there on my own. You wasn't allowed anyone. You're signing paperwork, which at the time I could barely read. Like, I could barely breathe, because the room, they're telling you all this information, and the room felt like it was swallowing me. And I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in this position. And all while just going it alone, because Jason also couldn't come in. And it was just, yeah, just for me, just so stressful, and in such a short period of time, because obviously we had the miscarriage too, that it was the first time that I seriously struggled with mental health and bringing myself back round from that. Like, I pick myself up. Like, I broke my shoulder, for crying out loud, and I got straight back on my bike, not even thinking about it. I'm like, I don't care if it's hanging off. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm a bike rider, and that's what I do. But I couldn't. My head wouldn't just pick me back up. Like, I was broken, and broken. I felt as a person, but I felt like my body had let me down. Like, something that I'd relied upon for so much of my career had just let me down, and it was so hard to process. But Jace one day just said, just go and ride your bike. So after a week after the operation, he was like, ride your bike, see what happens. And then I went out, and for me, it stopped me thinking, because of course you're thinking about other things. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh, my legs don't feel that bad. Or like, where am I going to go? How long should I do? And it stopped my head from going, why has it let me down? Why did this happen to me? Why am I such a bad person that all of a sudden I'm getting all this bad luck? I would sacrifice any Olympic medal to have those children that we created. And it was that was constant in my head. But the bike riding gave me a release.
So do you think it was the physical process of riding your bike that was able to displace those mental thoughts in a way? Or was it that you were able to recognize your own physical strength again, that you were able to take control of something?
I think it gave me the release. So for those 2 hours, my head switched off. Like, I wasn't constantly thinking, what next? It just gave me the space to basically pick myself up out of home and just go and ride, and I was free, and I could go anywhere for any amount of time. But it also then gave me a purpose, because once I started to feel a bit like me again, I was starting to have more meetings back with British Cycling, and I started to realise that actually I do really still love riding my bike. And I think because it gave me a purpose, I then started to be able to process what actually happened, because it wasn't 200 thoughts in my head, it was a few. And it started to get to a point where Jason and I could actually speak about it. And then it became a lot clearer. And then once obviously I started to get fit again, I started to have a plan. And then it was much easier to talk about it then. And obviously once I got back to fitness at Glasgow, I finally felt able, like this time, say even, 8 months ago, I can't think how long Glasgow was away. If I told someone and then they'd come to me and spoke, I didn't even have the words. Like, I couldn't process what had actually gone on. Like, I was just so upset still.
You say it was the first time you've ever struggled with your mental health. And you're so known and celebrated for the way you pick yourself back up again, physically, literally, off the track floor when you've crashed. And I'm guessing you probably have taken a lot of pride in that over the years, the fact that you are so resilient and that you bounce back so much. Did that make it so much more difficult to realise that you could be as vulnerable as anybody else?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the worst thing was people didn't know what to say to me, because I do just bat things off. Like, it doesn't, I always see myself, and I do, like you say, I'm quite proud of the way I've stepped up time and time again and moved obstacles out of the way. And that is how I see myself. Like, if there's a barrier, I will move anything. I would do literally anything to get it out of the way, because like my goal ultimately is on the other side of it. And so I think people were struggling with, even so much as like family members were struggling to know what to say, because normally I go, it doesn't matter, like, of course it doesn't matter, like I'll be fine in a week. But it wasn't, like this wasn't going away, like it wasn't just fine in a week, because a plan that we had set had just been torn away.
Would you have done anything differently, do you think, now with all the experience that you've had, when we were back in this velodrome a year ago and you say you had to be Laura, you had to be okay? Do you think that was the right thing for you to do, to battle through it, or would you do it differently?
I would do it differently, yeah. I wouldn't fly. I wouldn't have flown on the Thursday, because I started to miscarriage before I'd even come. But the tricky, like the fine balance was, I had never experienced it, and you are living in such faith that everything is going to be okay, like the whole time. And I remember going to the toilet about 600 times thinking, please be no blood now, like please just tell me that was just it, because you hear that people bleed throughout their pregnancies. And so I was like, maybe this is just fine. And so I just thought, I'll get on the aeroplane and everything will just be fine. And obviously when it wasn't. So yeah, if I could redo it again, because Jason told me to stay at home, but I was just like, I have signed up to something that I'm really quite interested in doing, like I want to go, and I just regret that, because it just meant that I went through the whole thing alone.
You said something a minute ago that really broke my heart, Laura. You said that you would have given up any one of your Olympic medals for the children that you were creating. Is that how you still feel?
Yeah, really, yeah. I mean, cycling has given me so much joy, and I was so proud when I got knighted, or damehood, whatever we want to call it, but I was so proud. And that ultimately wasn't a goal. You know, we don't win Olympic gold medals to go and visit the Queen or the King now, but when I got the letter through the post, I was just like, wow, like this is absolutely, I am so pleased that I've been able to achieve this. But even so much as that, family, it to me is everything, you know, and it's, gold medals bring you happiness right there and then, but family is forever. And so yeah, like even to this day, I would sacrifice gold medals to have more children.
I guess the beauty of going through hard things in life is that if you're open enough to it, it always teaches us something. We become stronger, we become better in some way or other. Have you learned anything that you could give as advice to anybody who's suffered anything like what you've gone through, be it miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy, or any struggles with their mental health for the first time? Because the difficulty with all of that is we do it alone. Yeah. And so knowing that someone else has been through it, sometimes there are lessons that you can share. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing that I did was speaking about it. And I mean, obviously I have a platform and I wanted to use it. I always knew at some point I would feel brave enough, people were branding it or whatever, confident enough to come out and actually say, look, this has happened. And that was the best thing that I could have done, because like your family and your friends, they can give you so much and they can comfort you, but you can't help but sit on Google when something bad happens and you want to know what the ending is. But having other people's stories was actually the thing that comforted me the most, because people had already got their happy endings and that's what I needed to hear. And so I think, like, speaking about it, and you shouldn't feel that you can't, or that for whatever reason, like, you're embarrassed or anything. Like, there is nothing that I feel that you shouldn't be able to be open about. And to be honest, if someone then turns around and has a bad opinion or whatever, well, that's bad on them. Like, that's not bad on you, ultimately. You're doing the right thing to help you. But also, like, mental health isn't something to be ashamed of. Like, admitting that I struggled isn't something that I'm ashamed of. If anything, it is brave to come out and say, you know what, I am actually struggling. But if you don't put your hand up and say, look, I am struggling, then you're not going to get through it. But I would say, like, as much as that time, it felt like I was absorbed, like it felt like my brain was like absorbing me in thoughts that I just, I guess, never thought I'd have. There was an ending. And whether it be bike riding or whether it be walking a dog or going to see friends, whatever gives you your happy, you'll find it and the ending will come. Like, it's only for a moment in time. And when you look back, it really is a moment in time.
And we're back here in Mallorca in a very different setting this time around. How did you feel about coming here? Were you nervous about it being here in particular, I guess?
No, I don't think so, no. I mean, there were a few things just driving in from the airport, because obviously I walked to the chemist and stuff like that, that I was like, oh yeah, because I haven't actually been back since either. But no, I think because I am actually happy now, like I've got my happy back, that it's not like, it's good to be back at a bike race. And like even coming up the stairs, like, and seeing you guys, like I'm like, oh, like, because as much as it was so crap, the situation I was in, I actually had a really good time for the days that we spent together, and I thought, and it was brilliant. And as much as, like, there are small things like with Rob up in the commentary that I think, God, you're mental that you stood there for 3 hours. Yeah, I did, but it was 3 hours that was quite fun too. And so it just because, like, it was a bad situation, lots of things around it were really quite fun. So when I came in, I actually was like, oh yeah, I'm back.
So you're looking forward to competing tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, you don't forget how to ride a bike, do you? So how hard can it be?
Oh, Laura, best of luck. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's amazing.
Thanks.
You're amazing.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.